at 7 o'clock. We'll call the regular city council meeting to order with a pledge of allegiance. Please stand. Madam Clerk, if you could please call the roll.
Certainly, Mr. Burmeister,
Here.
Ms. Hammond,
Here.
Mr. Kittle,
Here.
Mr. Knight,
Here.
Ms. Mitchell is here, Ms. Verbecki,
Here.
Mayor McDaniel.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Item 4, approval of the minutes. We had the regular city council meeting that occurred on April 24th of 2017. If there are not any corrections, I would be open for a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Verbecki. Do we have support? Support. Supported by Mr. Burmeister. Any further discussion? We're ready to vote.
Ms. Verbecki,
Yes.
Mr. Burmeister,
Yes.
Ms. Hammond,
Yes.
Mr. Kittle,
Yes.
Mr. Knight,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell votes yes, Mayor McDaniel.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. There's no appointments and presentations. We'll move on to item number 6, public comment. Ladies and gentlemen in the audience, anyone wishing to speak on an item that is not on this evening's agenda, we do ask that as you come through council chamber doors, you fill out a public comment form. This just helps facilitate the meeting and to ensure that we have accurate information for public comment. This time I do not have a public comment form. However, ma'am, if that's okay, if you just state your name and address.
Thanks. My name is Crystal Proxmeyer, and I am the publisher of the Oakland County Times. Our address is P.O. Box 20293, Ferndale, Michigan. I'll fill out a form in a moment. Thank you. I'm just here basically to say hello. We are a community-driven news organization. We're based in Ferndale. We primarily cover southeast Oakland County and northwest Oakland County. But I'm kind of trying to make the rounds, and I'm getting to other cities. You guys, we already do cover a little bit of Auburn Hills. Your city manager and your police chief do incredible jobs with their blogging and their communications. So you guys already do have a presence on our website. I just wanted to come in person and introduce myself and extend the invitation that if anybody either on council or community groups or anybody else that's involved with Auburn Hills wants to get information out there, Oakland County Times is the website to do that. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for coming this evening, introducing yourself, telling us all about it. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have in terms of public comment.
Mr. Mayor,
forms. Sure.
can I make a quick introduction?
Sure.
I'd like to bring Zach Thomas to the podium, if I may. Zach is our new management assistant, so he's our intern for 2017, 2018. He started with us last week, and I just wanted to give him an opportunity to briefly introduce himself to the City Council.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for the welcome. So my name is Zach Thomas. I'm the new, as Mr. Tangi said, I am the new management assistant and intern in the city manager's office. I'm really excited to get to know more about public administration and local government management. I'm going for my master's program, Master of Public Administration with a concentration in local government management at Oakland. And so I'm really excited to work with Mr. Tangi to learn more about that. So thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. We look forward to all the great things that you will contribute. Ladies and gentlemen, is there anyone else in the audience that's wishing to speak on an item that is not on this evening's agenda? If so, please come forward at this time. Seeing no one, we will go ahead and close the public comment at 7:04. Council, that brings us to the consent agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, all items are considered to be routine by the City Council and be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of any of these items unless a council member so requests, in which event that item will be removed from the consent agenda and then considered in its normal sequence. Council, the items for our consideration this evening are the receiving of our boards and commission minutes for the Tax Increment Finance Authority that occurred on April 11th, the Downtown Development Authority that occurred on April 17th, and the Beautification Advisory Commission that occurred on April 19th, as well as a motion to approval for the DTE Master Agreement for Option 1 for the streetlight conversion. Council, it is before us for a motion. Mr. Knight.
I will move to approve items 7A and 7B of our consent agenda.
All right, moved by Mr. Knight. Do we have support?
Support.
Supported by Ms. Rebecki. Any further discussion? We're ready to vote.
Mr. Knight?
Yes.
Ms. Rebecki?
Yes.
Mr. Burmeister?
Yes.
Ms. Hammond?
Yes.
Mr. Kittle?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell votes yes. Mayor McDaniel?
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you. There's no old business, so we'll move on to new business. We have 9A. Council, it's a public hearing and a request for a motion to approve an amendment to the Auburn Hills Code of Ordinances, Chapter 74 regarding utilities. Good evening, Deputy Director Herzig.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council. This agenda item is for your consideration, a request to amend the Auburn Hills Code Ordinance of Chapter 74, Section 74-145. The amendment is in respect to the unauthorized use of water and certified backflow protection. It adds two new subsections, E, to address the use of water, and F, proper backflow protection devices. The packet includes the amendment changes drafted by City Attorney Becca Legg, and staff recommends adoption of this amendment as is.
Thank you. Council, any questions for staff? Before I open the public hearing? Nope. All right, at this time, I'll open the public hearing at 7:06. Ladies and gentlemen in the audience, is there anyone wishing to speak on this item this evening? If so, would you please come forward at this time? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing at 7:06. And council, it is back before us for a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Rebecki.
move to adopt ordinance number 17-890, an ordinance to amend to the utilities ordinance by adding new subsections E and F with respect to unauthorized water use to the Auburn Hills Code of Ordinances, Chapter 74 Utilities, Section 74-145.
Moved by Ms. Rebecki. Do we have support?
Support.
Supported by Ms. Hammond. Any further discussion? Madam Clerk, we're ready to vote.
Ms. Rebecki?
Yes.
Ms. Hammond?
Yes.
Mr. Kittle?
Yes.
Mr. Knight?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell votes yes. Mr. Burmeister?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Yes. I voted
Mayor
yes.
It still carries.
All right, perfect. Moving on to item 9B, council, it's a request for motion to declare the official intent to reimburse expenditures with bond proceeds. Good evening, Finance Director Schulz.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. The resolution declaring official intent to reimburse expenditures with bond proceeds comes about due to the city considering utilizing 2017 Brown proceeds to fund the costs for several planned capital expenditures in roads and buildings. These expenditures could be realized in 17 or 18. A resolution is necessary in order to preserve the ability to reimburse the city from bond proceeds for expenditures paid within 60 days prior to and any time after the date of passage of this resolution. It's important to recognize this resolution does not require the city to issue debt for any other projects that I've listed in this motion. Should the city move forward with a bond issuance, there'd be a separate bond resolution that would be brought forward that would include the actual parameters for the issuance of any bonds. While we are considering utilizing debt, staff recommends approval of the resolution.
All right, thank you. Council, any questions for staff? If not, be open for a motion for the approval.
Your Honor,
Mr. Burmeister.
move to adopt the resolution declaring official intent to reimburse expenditures with bond proceeds.
Moved by Mr. Burmeister. Do we have support? Support. Supported by Mr. Kittle. Any further discussion? Mr. Knight?
It was made very clear that I think that only those items that are listed here are included in here. And that if we needed to add some, we would need another resolution. Is that correct?
The actual resolution itself is non-specific. I listed items that currently staff is considering, but if we were to issue a bond, it may or may not include those items listed. You would see another resolution that was specific.
The reason I brought it up, as we look at this and as we analyze a little down the line, it seems to me that we should gather every project that we have in the next 3 years that we can accomplish, that we have people to do, and include them all in consideration. And the rationale behind it is the tax rate that will be charged on these bonds, in my opinion, will be less than the cost increases for construction and that type of thing if we delay something 2 years. And so I would hope that we would consider every possible thing that we're capable of doing before we finish, that. And so I'm asking if maybe there's some other projects, and it's just a comment on it. I'm in favor of what we're doing.
I think that certainly plays a role in our consideration in terms of cost increases to construction. The other thing that certainly influences our discussions about possibly bonding now versus a year from now or 2 years from now is also the rate increases. We've already seen almost a 0.5% increase in the bond interest rate since you held the workshop on bonding. So there may be some wisdom in bonding for projects now that we weren't going to, and we were looking at bonding for some projects starting next year, and then sort of flip-flop those and have some of the bonded projects occur now before costs increase, not only for construction, but interest rates on bonds themselves.
Just asking that we gather up an additional list of something maybe under our wildest expectations we might want to include. Thank you, that's all.
Mr. Knight. Council, any further questions or discussion? Mr. Kittle?
Ms. Schultz, could you just kind of confirm for everybody then what the next steps are from here?
Well, I think there still is some discussion to be have with staff and members of city council on the direction that we want to go. If we choose to move forward with a bond issuance, we need to bring on a financial advisor, and that person needs to get on board, and then we would move forward with an official bond resolution.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Mr. Dean.
Another step I just want to share with the council, and I think I already shared this with them through via email, but we do have the budget task force that has been looking at some items more in depth. And we have a meeting towards the end of this month. And one of the things that we're going to do is continue to work on and review the capital projects that might be of necessity in the next year or two, as Mr. Knight is suggesting. And then we're going to vet those items through the budget task force. So that way by June, we're able to bring a more comprehensive list to the full council, and it will already have been discussed and vetted with 3 members of the city council.
Okay, great. Council, any further discussion? All right, if not, I think we have a motion and a support. We are ready to vote.
Mr. Burmeister,
Yes.
Mr. Kittle,
Yes.
Mr. Knight,
Yes,
Ms. Mitchell votes yes, Ms. Verbecki,
Yes.
Ms. Hammond,
Yes.
Mayor McDaniel,
Yes,
motion carries.
thank you. Closing out new business, we have 9C. It's a request for motion regarding an appeal for a cigar license denial for the Loft Cigar Room. Clerk Kowal.
Good evening. The Loft Cigar Room came in with an application, and at the time, they have transferred the license in. So after talking it over with Mr. Beckerleg, that isn't allowed in our ordinance to transfer in a license. However, there is an appeal process, which we informed the applicant about, that they could appeal it to the council tonight. In my recommendation, I did recommend approval merely because this will only be our 3rd, then Grizzly has gone out of business. As a matter of fact, the guys from Grizzly are now overseas, and one's in Ireland, and they're doing work for the government and for other entities. So they're not coming back, is the point that I'm making. They won't be coming back to reopen Grizzlies. And so this still would just leave us with 3. And the only exception that we're making is allowing them to transfer in a license from a different county.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Clerk Kowal. At this time, I can ask the petitioner to come forward and at least introduce themselves And council, if you have any questions for staff at this time, we can entertain those. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Philip Maxwell. I'm attorney representing Champagne, Clubhouse 81. The Loft Cigar Bar is a DBA of that entity. We acquired a cigar license and too late found out that your ordinances did not permit a transfer. However, we have complied with all of the requirements of the Department of Health and Human Services, which issues this. The only remaining item is the Auburn Hills license. This cigar bar, I think it's the old Cicerelli's. It's the second floor. It's going to be all glassed in and separate from the other licensed premises. We're complying with all the Michigan liquor control requirements regarding this kind of a feature. And the state, the DHSS or DHHS has informed us that they can't complete their process of issuing us the exemption until you folks approve the license. So we're betwixt and between here. This is Victor Paluja. He is the owner of the restaurant, and maybe you could fill us in a little more on.
Good evening, guys.
Good evening.
I'm Victor Palushai. I'm a co-owner. My partner Eddie's over there. He's not feeling so well. So 3-4 months ago, we decided to buy Cicerelli's in Auburn Hills. It was one of them tough decisions, especially knowing that the Palace was leaving town. So this is when we kind of gathered up and kind of thought what would be a destination spot in this town. And by the way, we own 3 bars between Lake Orion and Oxford, 24th Street Tavern and Old Detroit Burger Bars. So we came up with this concept, more of a bar and grill on the first floor and a cigar room up top. That being said, there's a lot of customers which are now friends, and I would see them in Birmingham, I would see them in Rochester Hills, and so on and so forth. So this is where I came up with the idea to keep the money here in town. And I had no clue that Auburn Hills had to approve this, by the way. I thought once we got the state of Michigan license, we were good to go. So this is all a surprise, right, Mike? So Mike's the broker. Make a long story short, with the Palace leaving, of course, they draw a lot of people during game days and concerts and all that. So for us to survive at that location, it has to be a destination spot where we get all these people, besides good food and drinks and a clean environment, it has to be something where nobody else in this area has. I see a lot of familiar faces, so we really run clean establishments. We're focused on service, community involvement, schools. So Auburn Hills, we're looking forward to doing business here. And this is why we're here today, and I think this is gonna be the key for us to survive at that location. I don't know if you guys drove by, but we're doing a lot of work outside, way past our budget. But I think once we get, hopefully get this, I think this will put us on a map as far as this location and being a destination spot and having us prosper for years. You know, there's been 6 or 7 owners in the last 30 years there. And I think they relied on the Palace way too much. You know, there's plenty of industrial, there's plenty of residential now that's coming in town. And I think that we can do this.
Excellent. Well, council, I just start off here. I actually met with Mr. Paluja and his partner in the back there. One of the things that impressed me right off the bat with meeting these gentlemen was that exactly they understood the fact that, one, the Palace was leaving, right? And so they said that, you know, their business plan is going to be, geared towards making it 365 days a year as opposed to the 40 nights a year. What they're doing to that establishment, and I don't know if any of you have driven, I'm sure we have driven past there, and have seen, what it looks like from the outside and then been on the inside. I was in there not that long ago, and I know he has spent, as he said, over budget, but a considerable amount of money just in the men's and women's room. I think I want to say I was speaking with one of your representatives. There was almost like $30,000 or something like that just in the restrooms. And I know we kind of have some similar acquaintances I've ran into, and they say great things about you, that you're a very experienced and well-respected restaurateur. You've made some incredible successful ventures and turned some significant restaurants around. I'm extremely excited about what that location could be, and then the fact of all the investment that you're willing to put into this area and make that area a high traffic area in terms of a destination spot to have a good place to eat there, as well as have that cigar bar, which I know from speaking to a lot of the people, just as I was there that day, talking to people that were frequenting your establishment, that they were really looking forward to. So it sounds like you've tapped in to the area to find out what is desired to be nearby here, so they're not traveling too far south down Woodward to do that. So I just thought I would add a little bit of that background in terms of how I feel about this addition to our community. So, Ms. Verbecki?
Thank you. I just wanted to say a couple things. I'm 24th Street is the tavern up in Oxford. It's awesome. They're always crowded. They have a great menu. The place is clean. Great staff. So since that's that makes me feel even more comfortable. I didn't realize that prior to the meeting. So that was good information because you guys do such a great job up there. But I have one question in regards to air filtration. How is it somehow, like you were mentioning, it might somehow separated?
I can answer that.
Thank you.
Yes, there's gonna be, so the upstairs, it's gonna have its own ventilation. I think, the quotes that we're getting, it's top of the line ventilation. It runs near $70,000. So
It's similar to what they use in nail salons to make sure there's no contaminated air.
believe me, guys, I don't want to be downstairs and eating my food with my kids and smelling that cigar. So you have to believe in us. So with best ventilation, closed off, of course, with nice glass and, sorry, that's what I was gonna say. Okay. But yeah, top-notch ventilation, yeah.
Okay, that's great. I wish you guys luck. I think this will be a great addition, and thank you.
We just asked the commissioner, the council to waive the application of section 10113 of the code and approve the license. Thank you very much.
Yep, sure. 1 second, just in case a couple of council members have some additional questions. I know Ms. Hammond had her hand up. Ms. Hammond?
I do, and actually it's more for staff. To approve tonight, are we asking them to take our license that was available? Or that we're accepting that the transfer, and then we'll still have one more available, even though our ordinance only calls for 3?
They are proposing to bring a license in from Grand Ledge, if I'm not mistaken, and so basically, if you approved it, you would be allowing them to use the Grand Ledge license. The other license that would still be remaining could theoretically be sold to another establishment in the city, or could be sold out of the city, but that license has nothing to do with this request. They're asking for approval of a license from Grand Ledge, which they purchased.
Well, my question still is, though, our ordinance, didn't we say we were only gonna have 3?
The ordinance doesn't say we can only have 3, it just
But we had 3 available.
You had 3 available that could be utilized without transferring it from someplace else.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Knight?
I have no problems with this, but I gotta do a little history. When we enacted the ordinance, we had 3, and they didn't behave. And so we restricted to midnight. And that killed the business in somewhat. And we got the attention. There are people carousing around the lot after hours and doing stuff like that. And so with the reputation, I think you're gonna be fine. But just to let you know, this council is sensitive enough that if things get out of hand, there'll be a change in the hours or something. So I know you won't, but I just want to let you know, we have in the past to straighten up situations. That's why we have our own ordinances.
Mr. Knight, I totally understand, but this is a totally different crowd. Yeah, these are our moms, dads, grandpa, just want to get away. And it's just a whole different thing than a hookah bar, guys. And they're professionals, and they behave themselves, well, sometimes.
We had other professionals and they didn't quite manage. I'm just saying, just to you understand that we want you to be there, we want you to do a good job. But if the police start having problems, you know, they won't because you'll take care of it. But just to let you know, this group is sensitive to, and since that happened, things have gone very well and people have, you know, no more problems.
Thank you, Mr. Knight. Mr. Kittle?
If I, just to clarify one point, so we have the three, they're privately held licenses, right? So we had 3 approved by ordinance, so this in effect is 4. One's dormant, it could be bought by somebody here, it could be bought and sent elsewhere. So if you want to call it a risk, the risk would be that we could end up with 4 smoking establishments. Okay, but right now it'll be 3 with the approval of theirs. And being a frequent visitor to Church Hills and to the Godfather, I can't wait for you guys to get open.
Excellent.
Can I respond to
Sure.
Ms. Hammond's question? My understanding from speaking with Blaine Cressman, the gentleman who runs the tobacco section at DHHS, I think I got enough H's in there, your 3rd license was sold and moved to another county. So I believe you only have 2 currently, and this would be a 3rd.
Okay.
If that helps with the issue of maybe ending up with 4. I believe the 3rd one you had that went out of business was actually sold and went to another county, at least according to Mr. Cressman.
Excellent.
He facilitates, he's the pivot point for all the sales and movement of licenses in the state.
Okay. Mr. Burmeister?
I have a couple questions, more so for Mr. Becker. Like, are we opening the door to other licenses coming to the city?
Not necessarily. I think you look at each of these based on the facts and the operation being proposed, so no.
And does our ordinance distinguish between a hookah lounge and a cigar bar? Is there?
I think the references, I think they're all called smoking lounges, as I recall. The state license actually distinguishes between those licenses, but
I'm gonna just the thing that's hilarious though is in a cigar bar, you can't smoke cigarettes.
Correct, sir.
So you have to leave yours at the door.
Okay.
Mr. Knight, did you have something additional?
Forgot what it is.
I can come back to you. Ms. Rebecca
I
has
have
one.
one, so we can come back. Okay. I have a question. When you're asking for the appeal to relieve section 10-129, is that just the section that indicates that we were only allowed 3? Is specific?
no, that's
is that?
what they're asking is that you waive the requirement that prohibits them from bringing a license from out of the city into the city.
Okay, that's easy.
So I
Okay.
think the motion as written will,
I just wanted to make sure I understood exactly what that section included. Thank you.
okay. Mr. Knight?
Mentioned the license going out of the city. I assume that they have to make state requirements and then they have to met our requirements. I assume if that license went out of the city, it's because it was approved by the state and it's no longer our license in our community.
That's correct. Every municipality doesn't have a provision like we do that prevents bringing licenses in from a different place. So if they went to a municipality that allowed for that, which apparently happened, we would not know that, but I mean, if it happened, but yes.
All right. Council, if there aren't any further questions or discussion items, at this time I'd be open for a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Rebecca?
I would move to approve the license for Victor Palushka? Palushek?
Close enough.
Okay, to establish a smoking room known as the Loft Cigar Room at 3880 Lapeer Road, Auburn Hills, Michigan, 48326, subject to ordinance 14-861, as amended in ordinance 15-870.
Moved by Ms. Rebecca. Do we have support?
Support.
Support by Mr. Kittle. Any further discussion?
Question.
Question, Mr. Kittle?
So when would you actually allow smoking cigars after this is approved.
God willing, it's approved. We start work tomorrow, kind of, wrap it off and start work on it. So I'm thinking, worst case scenario, 60 to 90 days.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Knight?
Since this license is address specific, if the petitioners wanted to move it later on someplace else, they would have to come back and get it approved at a different location? That's a question?
No, if they closed their business and they wanted to sell it to somebody in a community that allowed for it to come from someplace else, they wouldn't need our permission to do that.
I'm just saying, we put in here, they're at 388.
Well, if they wanted to move it somewhere else in the city, they would need your permission.
Okay, if he wants to go elsewhere in the city, does he have to come back and get?
Yes.
Because this is specific to a location.
But they can move it out of the city without our permission.
That answered my question. Thank you.
All right, any further discussion or questions? If not, we're ready to vote.
Ms. Verbecki?
Yes.
Mr. Kittle?
Yes.
Mr. Knight?
Yes?
Ms. Mitchell? Votes yes. Mr. Burmeister?
Yes.
Ms. Hammond?
Yes.
Mayor McDaniel?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming this evening. We wish you all the best, and we are looking forward to the grand opening.
So are we.
Look forward to seeing you all there.
Excellent.
Thank you, guys. Hopefully we make you guys proud. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, with that, we will move on to item 10. It is comments and motions from council. We'll move over to the new grandmother, Ms. Hammond.
You
Congratulations.
mean the old lady? Okay. First off, even though she's not here, I want to thank Chief Oko for going and giving interviews and setting the record straight about Great Lakes Crossing and all the rumors. And I had seen him on Facebook and kept replying to them saying it's not true, we would know about it. But tell her we say thank you very much for making it public and getting it out there because, you know, these things just spread like crazy on social media. My other one is I want to remind people that the burning season had started the 1st of May. And although I'm not in the habit of calling, there was somebody in our area burning on Sunday. So I want to remind people that the days are Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday from dusk to dawn. So that's it. Dawn to dusk. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. I'm a grandma, forgive me. That's it, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Mr. Kittle?
Just one, I'd like to ask, staff if we could, just make sure that we don't miss the opportunity to put a couple of, at least one or maybe two signs on the Pier Road for Fieldstone for those that are coming up from the south, since there's no visible marking and it's just not obvious that Taylor Road is there and that's where the golf course is. For northbound traffic. Yeah. I've got a couple locations in mind if you're interested.
All set? Mr. Knight?
Several brief ones. First one is my son was up in Carroll at the local John Deere dealer, and oh, you live in Auburn Hills? Yeah, son. Oh, well, we know what's happening to the Palace. Oakland Heights is going to buy it and make a refuse sorting place and put it on the facilities. Now, again, that was the rumor up there, just to let you know. Everybody knows our solutions. Second item, the sundial down in the middle of the road is marvelous. That is just an attractive installation down there in the center. And as we talked in the past about having a city center net, I'm not sure we couldn't put a nice Christmas tree right in that boulevard between the banks and the condos and use that as a live Christmas tree location because it's gorgeous right now with all the tulips. But that just passing wind, but I wanted to let you know about Sundial. I was on the Biardi property touring today, and I still think our construction man has a lot of stuff on our property. And not to be, we shouldn't necessarily go down there tomorrow, but we ought to keep an eye on that because there's a lot of junk, I think. And my question, it goes with that. We're going to do some consideration at the Brownfield group, but are we required to keep a road parallel to the current building to go back to that other piece of property? Is that a deeded right-of-way, and will we have to keep pavement on that road?
We will. There is an easement there that provides access to Superior Excavating.
Thank you. I just mentioned some stuff there. The last item, I had to go up to Lexington in my Volt yesterday, so it's the first time I burned any gasoline. Now, when I charge it with electricity, it's 4.7 cents a mile. And I got 51 miles to a gallon when the engine's running. At 1,000 miles a year, or a month, you save $75. Now, I've mentioned it before, and I think this new version is so much more efficient than the old version. I think it's time that we might consider the ecological cars, a couple of them in our fleet, because with the gas tank, they can go 300 miles or something like that. But they're really cost effective, and if you get 20 miles to a gallon, and the gallon in gas is $2.40, it's 12 cents a mile. So there's some cost reductions there that I think it might be, if we could find some vehicles in that, particularly the Volt. That's the only one I know about. But I just want to pass it on. I was just astounded at the economy of that vehicle. I'm done.
All right. Mr. Burmeister.
First off, I'd like to say thank you for the workshop tonight. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was very informative. Secondly, for Mr. Cohen, you don't have to stand up. I brought it up to Mr. Tangi, but the construction at 5 Points Apartments, last night I walked out of Macaroni Grill a little bit after 8, and they were still banging away at something on the roof. So I don't know what the hours are on Sunday. And it was enjoyable to drive around the town yesterday and see all of the construction. The person I was with kept saying, "What's going up there? What's that going to be?" So there's a lot going on. And George P. Johnson, outdoor storage, I noticed it, I think it was last weekend on a Friday night, they had numerous boxes or wooden crates standing outside. So if you could just check on that, I don't know what the limitations are for that. And that's all.
All right. Ms. Verbecki.
Nothing this evening, thank you.
All right. I guess I get to take two turns today, right? Because Mayor Pro Tem Mitchell is suffering from laryngitis, so she's going to pass this evening. And then the only thing that I was going to mention was a couple of things. Hopefully staff has an opportunity at least just to think about it, maybe can work on. The two updates that I was looking forward to is with the gravel issues that we have on Auburn Road, to see if there's anything that we can do to kind of mediate that for this summer, spring season. And then also the tree cutting that was going on right there on Auburn Road near the Clinton River Bridge. I'm not sure if there's going to be additional cleanup efforts there. So if, I mean, even if it's just an email update would be fine, or at the next council meeting, if we could just kind of see where we are with that. And then, is it next Sunday is Mother's Day? So we will obviously not meet until then. So wish all the mothers, including my two mothers, my mother and my mother-in-law, and even the grandmothers and mothers up here, and all the staff who are mothers, happy Mother's Day. May you enjoy your Sunday, your well-deserved day. And we can move on to the city attorney's report. City manager's report. And my mother. And my children's mother. Yes. All the mothers. I said all the mothers.
I wanted to make sure it was safe for you to go home tonight.
Absolutely, thank you.
A few things, Mayor. First, I want to let the city council know that Community Relations is going to be working on a video in which we'll be asking executives, corporate executives throughout the city to provide a brief testimonial about their experience with doing business in Auburn Hills. So we plan to seek a broad spectrum of small to large businesses and hope to conclude the project this summer and have the final product ready for airing by late summer. On Tuesday, April 25th, I attended a meeting of the Michigan Strategic Fund in support of US Ferrothane and their acquisition of another Auburn Hills company, Delta Technologies. The company was awarded funding by the fund and to support their growth initiatives here in the community. Every other year, we meet with the Road Commission of Oakland County to review their completed and planned work and to discuss their overall partnership with our community. I wanted to let you know that that meeting did take place on Wednesday, April 26th, and included a number of our staff, including representation from our police department and our Department of Public Works. The meeting gave us an opportunity to discuss areas of concern for the city, especially as it relates to county roads. I'm pleased to share with you that we have orchestrated a donation between the Auburn Hills Community Foundation and a private donor to nearly completely recarpet the Boys and Girls Club. If you've been inside the club recently, you can appreciate the need for this badly needed improvement. And we expect the installation to take place the week of June 12th. And lastly, Auburn Hills will soon welcome the 7th president of Oakland University, Dr. Ora Peskovitz. Dr. Peskovitz begins her new duties as OU president on July 1st, and we look forward to getting to know her and introducing her to all of the that Auburn Hills has to offer. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And then, council, we will need a motion to go into executive session for a city attorney legal opinion.
Mr. Mayor?
Sure.
One more thing.
Absolutely.
On May 20th at 10 a.m., we have our perennial exchange, which is a very well-liked and event that we have through the Beautification Advisory Committee. And it is at 10 a.m. at Riverwoods Park. So hope to see everybody there.
All right.
And I will make a motion to go into an executive session.
All right, moved by Mr. Becky. Do we have support? Supported by Mr. Burmeister. We're ready to vote.
Mr. Becky?
Yes.
Mr. Burmeister?
Yes.
Ms. Hammond?
Yes.
Mr. Kittle?
Yes.
Mr. Knight?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell votes yes. Mayor McDaniel?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Move to adjourn, moved by Mr. Kittle, supported by Ms. Hammond. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? This meeting is adjourned.